So, you look at this memorial in Kuta, Bali, and you see 202 names carved into the stone. Most of the tourists walking by today don't even stop to read them. But on October 12th, 2002, these weren't just names on a wall. These were real people choosing what to wear for a night out. They had lives, you know. Jamie Wellington, fresh out of university in New Zealand. The Coogee Dolphins rugby team was in town, celebrating their season. And a whole lot of Indonesian staff were just getting ready for another busy Saturday night serving tourists. What none of them knew was that 6 men had spent months planning to turn their ordinary night into the deadliest terrorist attack since 9/11. Kuta was paradise for most visitors. The biggest worry was figuring out which bar to hit first. But hidden in the wreckage, investigators would later find a single fragment of a mobile phone. One detective called it "our golden thread," and it led them straight to a safe house where the bombers were celebrating, watching the news. Just imagine that. This investigation was a nightmare, honestly. You had 3 bomb sites, evidence completely destroyed by over 2,200 pounds of explosives. The jurisdiction was a mess, with Indonesian police, the Australian Federal Police, and Interpol all trying to work together on protocols that had never been tested at this scale. So, to put it simply, pure chaos. 3 explosions, hundreds of victims, and a team of investigators who had to rebuild the whole story from fragments scattered across multiple city blocks. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away, families were getting on planes to Bali, having no idea if their loved ones were alive or dead. And as one mother, Judy Wellington, put it, the not knowing was almost worse than, well, nothing could be worse. But those hours of not knowing. So, how do you even identify victims when all the usual methods fail? The disaster victim identification teams worked 18-hour shifts. Every single piece of evidence mattered. Every personal belonging could be the last connection to someone's loved one. And then, in a pile of melted metal and ash, forensic specialist Graham Ashton spotted something that would change everything, that little shard of circuitry. As he later said, it was our golden thread back to the safe houses. That tiny phone fragment led them to a specific Nokia model, which led them to purchase records in East Java, which led them to a house in Denpasar, and that led them straight to Amrozi bin Nur Hashim, who, by the way, was smiling as he was arrested. In just 3 weeks, a case that could have taken years was cracked by a piece of evidence smaller than a business card. The head of the investigation, Ahmed Mangku Pastika, looked absolutely exhausted in his press conferences. He was trying to give updates while they were still digging victims out. But every word he said instantly became global news. But while the investigators were busy tracing phone circuits, families were facing a completely different kind of investigation, learning to live with an absence that would never, ever make sense. How do you even begin to measure a life that was cut short like that? Meanwhile, in a beachside suburb of Sydney, the Coogee Dolphins Rugby Club was making a decision that would outlast any news cycle. A member said, "We could have just grieved privately. But we thought, if we're going to hurt this much, let's make it count for something." And something really unprecedented started to happen. Memorials weren't just popping up in Bali or in the victims' home countries. They were showing up in places that lost no one at all. Why does a tragedy in one place create memorials everywhere? Sociologists have a name for it: vicarious trauma, when communities feel grief from events they didn't directly experience. But the Bali bombings were different. It created this international ownership of a local tragedy. Simply put, Bali became everyone's tragedy because the victims came from all over the world. And a survivor, Chusnul Chotima, who's had 37 surgeries since the bombings, puts it best. This doesn't end when the news cameras leave, but I still campaign for other survivors. You can see the resilience in her face. For years, we've told a simple story. Terrorists attacked paradise, tourism collapsed, and security got a lot tighter. But that narrative misses something crucial. Because here's the thing, the Bali bombings didn't destroy paradise. They revealed that paradise was always an illusion. And by destroying that illusion, they created something more honest. Meanwhile, modern Bali operates with a level of visible security that would have been unthinkable in 2002. But visitors still come. In 2024, there were 6.2 million visitors. That's more than double the number before the bombings. This creates a paradox. Increased awareness of the threat led to increased safety measures, which led to increased confidence, which in turn led to more tourism. Now, some people argue that the bombings, as horrific as they were, actually made Bali safer by forcing security improvements that were long overdue. One Balinese official said, "We learned we couldn't live in isolation from world events." But then you have survivors who say, "Don't you ever tell me something good came from watching my friends die?" There's no right or wrong side to that. What you can't deny is that remembrance has become a form of international diplomacy. The annual memorial services coordinate across time zones so that a sunrise service in Bali connects with a sunset service in Australia. This is what 23 years looks like. As Judy Wellington put it, the passage of time has not eased the grief of losing a son, but it has taught me that keeping his memory alive keeps him alive. It's not about healing, it's about transformation. Not closure, but continuation. 202 people chose to spend Saturday evening, October 12th, 2002, in Kuta, Bali. Forever, they'll be known as those lost in the Bali bombings. But first, and always, they were people who lived.